All right, here is a story about the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, Rebbe Shmuel. He was born on the second day of Iyar, which that's today. About 200 years ago, he was born, and he passed away almost 50 years later. Passed away very young. When he was a young boy, he was very precocious. They say he was very intelligent, very lively. His father was the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad, and people came from all over to him, to his father, to receive blessings, to receive advice, especially with Torah questions. A lot of people came with their problems. And he used to sort of wander around and ask people. At the time, he was, I don't know, 6 years old, whatever. And he would talk to the people that were sitting in the waiting room. Anyway, there was one time when there was some sort of a decree or a problem or whatever, and there were people in the waiting room that wanted to get in, but the Rebbe wasn't receiving anybody. He locked himself into his room and he was praying and he was some sort of averting some sort of a decree or whatever there was, whatever reasons he had, but he had locked himself in his room and he wasn't receiving any visitors at all. So the people were sitting there, they were sort of worried. So he went around, this Rebbe Shmuel, he was young, and he went around and talked to people. And so he asked one fellow, "Why are you here?" And he said, "Because his daughter's getting married and he needs money to buy a talit for the groom. And he doesn't have any money. Doesn't have any money. I guess he spent all the money for the wedding. Anyway, whatever it was, he didn't have any money." So he said, "God will help." He went to the next person sitting next to him, another person in the room. "What's your problem?" He said, "My problem is, they were all desperate. They were all sitting there waiting for the Rebbe, and the Rebbe was an hour passed, 2 hours passed. The Rebbe wasn't taking. They needed help. So they figured, well, they'll talk to the Rebbe's son. Maybe something good will come out of it. Maybe." So Shmuel asked him, "What's his problem? What's the problem?" There was an important looking person sitting there, an important looking, rich looking Jew. And he said, I got into real big problems with the government. He said, "I have a big factory for making pots and pans. And I got for all sorts of, eating utensils. And I got a big contract with the government to make, like, what is the 20,000 tons of pots and pans for the government. They gave me money for all this iron. And in fact, I didn't use whatever 20,000 tons. I only made like 19,000 tons. But that's what everybody does. Everybody does that. And I just made the pots and pans a little tiny bit thinner. And so nobody, it's perfectly all right. Everybody agrees. But the fact of the matter is that one of my workers lied. And he said that I'm sorry, he turned me in. He went to the government and he turned me in, and he also lied. He said that I used, like I took money for 20,000 tons, and really I only gave them 18,000 tons, and I was cheating and lying, and even forged papers, and I'm in big trouble, and I don't know what to do. I have to get the Rebbe. So the Rebbe, the Rebbe Shmuel, like the 6-year-old boy, he said, "Well, just wait 1 minute," and he went into his father's room. And he came out. He didn't talk to his father at all. Just went in, came out. And he said, "You should give." He went to the rich person and he said, "Listen, see that person over there? He needs money for a talit for his daughter to get married. Give him the money for the talit and also give him some more. It's for his daughter's wedding and it'll be okay." So he said, "Oh, this is great, for sure." So he walks over to him and he says, "How much do they need for the talit?" He says, 20 rubles or something. This is here, take 500 rubles. Take 500 rubles. This case that he's against him is like millions of rubles. And if he's found guilty, he's going to sit maybe the rest of his life in prison, stealing from the government. This is in the time of the Tsar, stealing from the government. So he gave him 100 rubles. Amazing, And now he's sameach, happy. This rich guy is happy. Obviously, the Rebbe told his son what to do. And now it fixed up two things. But the fact is, the Rebbe did not tell him, but he didn't know that. He just took it for granted. So we went to the court case. The court case came. The court case was like the next week or something. And he was just there, certain and full of confidence, self-confidence, and everything was going to be okay. And the testimony starts. The judge, they sit there as a very austere situation. There's guards all over the place, and they started giving testimony against him. And first of all, the two workers there, two of his workers that worked in the factory, they give the testimony. And they had already given the judge the forged papers that they had forged, that said that he took money for 20,000 tons and he only produced 18,000 tons. And then other people started coming and talking against this Jew, that he cheated them also and this. So the Jew is starting to think, things look pretty bad. Things look pretty terrible. What am I going to? So the judge said, okay, after he hears all the evidence, so he said, okay, what do you have to say? So he said, I'm innocent. I said, that's it? You haven't got any proof, no anything? He said, no, I wasn't prepared for such a attacks on me. I'm innocent. He starts crying. So the judge says, so the prosecution, they're really happy. This guy hasn't even got what to say for himself. So the judge says, okay, you claim that you got money for 20,000. And they claim that you stole 2 tons. You only gave them 18,000. That's right. And they have all this evidence and they have witnesses and everything. So I decide, and the prosecution is like just in glee, they're happy. And he's just, he doesn't know what to do with himself. He figures that's it. His life is finished. The judge says, I declare that you have to bring all of the pots back from the army, all the pots, and weigh them. We can't just send a person to jail on. They said, but Your Honor, we have witnesses, we have proof, we have this. So listen, if the judge says, if we can verify what this man says, we have to verify. If he's lying, then the punishment is going to be very severe because we've troubled the court and you made, but that's my decision, takes his hammer, boom, that's it. So they put the guy back into prison or they send him to house arrest, whatever it is. And sure enough, they send all these wagons out and they collect all of the pots and pans from the army. They had barely used them. And they bring him to court. And 2 weeks later, they call him back. They get him out of his house. I don't know if it was house arrest. It doesn't say in the story. Or from prison. Anyway, they take him out. And they stand in front. And there's the prosecution. And he's standing there alone. And they say, okay, Mr. whatever it is, Ivanovich, that's this Chassid's name. You claim that you did what you were supposed to do. You received money for 20,000 tons. Is that right? I said, yes, it is right. I said, well, we weighed everything. We weighed all those pots. I said, Mr. Ivanovich, there's not 20,000 tons there. I said, oh. Says there's 22,000 tons. Mr. Ivanovich, you are a patriot. You have helped the country from your own pocket and you didn't even want it to be known. You are a hero. And those people, you are liars and cheaters. And he takes them and throws them in jail. And he's just, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. So he goes back to the Tzemach Tzedek. This is already, a couple of weeks later. Now, by now, the Tzemach Tzedek is accepting people. And he goes back with a big, a nice donation. And he gets it to see that Tzemach Tzedek. He says, thank you very much. I want to thank you so much. You saved my life. You don't know what you did. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, I don't remember you. Who are you? He said, don't you remember, Rebbe? Remember your son went in. It was a couple of weeks ago. You didn't see people, so your son went in. And he told you, he said, my son, which son? He said, your son, the small son, Shmuel. He said, he came into me and he said, what? You told him that I should give money. That's what he said. He said, well, he didn't say that, but that's what he told me to do. I said, what did he tell you to do? He said, he told me to give money to this fellow who needs a talis for his daughter. You mean you don't know? You don't know what it is? Continue the story. I gave 100 rubles to this fellow who needed to buy a talis for his daughter and gave him also extra money for this. And then I went into court, and it was amazing. They weighed everything, and it came out. The fact of the matter is I really did cheat a little bit, but not as much as they claimed. And it came out that they weighed everything, and it came out to my favor, that it was more than what I paid for. So the Tzemach Tzedek turns to his son. He said, "Did you told him to do that on your own?" He said, "Yeah." So he said, "How did you do such a thing like that? How did you do it?" His little son, how did you say? His son said, "I don't know. I just saw that if he would give this money, I saw all this iron floating up in heaven on his scale. All this jumping over onto his scale, weighing down his side of the scale. I just saw it in heaven. It just seemed to be an obvious thing." So the Tzemach Tzedek's son, Shmuel, when he was already 6 years old, he already had, how do you say, a spirit of holiness to help other people. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, God willing, tomorrow, 8:15 in the morning, we'll continue learning Likutei Torah about Yom HaKippurim, the day of forgiveness. Shalom Uvracha, Mashiach. Now, Yechi Adonenu, Moreno Rabbeinu, Melech Mashiach, long live the Rebbe, King Mashiach. Come on, let me turn this thing off.